Hello and welcome back to our podcast on wealth magic. This is Mars, and I am joined today by our very own Pixie Dust. Hi,
Hey,
Pixie,
hey guys.
and Jasmine. Hi, Jasmine.
Hello.
And folks, today we're going to be discussing the fifth ritual of wealth magic: changes in competition. Now, before we get started, I want to do a quick recap. Wealth Magic is a powerful grimoire developed by Damon Brand and his colleagues over at the Gallery of Magick. The goal of the book is to take the occultist through a journey of rituals over a course of 6 months to enable a life of unlimited wealth. The first ritual, as we discussed, was part of an alchemical rite, and it was designed to remove the blockages that exist within the occultist. The second ritual forms a pact with three powerful angels that render the occultist omnipotent. The third ritual puts the first two to the test, actually, by facilitating an environment that is conducive to allowing money to flow into you and through you. And lastly, the fourth ritual is with the Archangel Raziel. And in our previous discussion, we talked about how the ritual provides the intuition and awareness needed to perceive the forces that are outside of your control to better analyze opportunities that are in harmony with what you are commanding. So without furthermore, why don't we start to discuss changes in competition? I'm pulling out my book as we speak and kind of going through it really quickly. The ritual itself looks pretty similar to the first working. And as you can see here, the sort of the deviation that we see is a talisman, as well as a few other things. But this working, as it states in the first chapter, the first sentence, is aimed at stimulating change and growth in your life and will also help defeat the competition. Pixie, what are your thoughts on this ritual? I know that you're sort of in the process of redoing wealth magic again, and I think you're currently on the fifth working. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, I am. Yeah. So, it's kind of cool that this is aligning with me being on the fifth working. So, and I had highlighted and I'm doing wealth magic for the second time too. So I had highlighted the second time around, that you may find the sentence in the beginning where it says you may find this an ideal time to launch a new project, begin new marketing, or put out the word about your skills. And honestly, right before I had started this ritual, I was at a point with one of my jobs where I had built an Instagram page to market myself for freelance piano lessons rather than, working for the studio that I'm working for. So just already kind of going into it, like I had that kind of precursor of an idea of this business, more or less that will, one, make my time more of my own, and two, I'll make more money, because I'll be able to keep 100% of the profit rather than having to split with a studio. So that being said, like you said, this ritual is similar to ritual 1, in the sense that it keeps essentially, like, from the names from the beginning, I'm grateful for all that I have. I'm humble and a revel in the words of power. From the names, noticing the darkness and all that. We'll get into that a little later. There's a lot of similarities. But what I think the main difference between rituals 1 and ritual 5 is the level that the magician is at when doing these rituals. So, in ritual 1, it's slightly different. You have to go collect the dirt, or the soil. And I found I got caught up in re-listening to the first one, in the symbolism between just 1 and 5, just the numbers 1 and 5, as they relate to ritual 1 and ritual 5. So ritual 1, to start, is Yasmin had said something in our ritual 1 podcast about it symbolizes, from the Black Pole, it symbolizes an initiation, the ritual. So ritual 1 would be like the first initiation, into this journey of wealth magic and into the book altogether. And then ritual 5 being kind of copy and pasted this somewhat similar ritual, is almost like the second initiation, you know, like you've leveled up. So we're going into another tier of this wealth building, if you will. And then I really, my brain loves symbolism. I see symbolism everywhere. So that's kind of like my thing. So with this, you know, I was looking at numerology, and number one, you know, symbolizes the sun, the beginning, the all, unity, symbolizes creativity in the individual. Whereas number five symbolizes Mercury. So first of all, which is the planet of communication. And in this ritual five, you know, we have a moment of visualization where we're sensing and feeling our lives in the future, a year later, you know, so it's almost like communicating future intent in ritual five with the symbolism of Mercury. And also five is like the number of harmony and balance. You know, we have the five fingers, five toes, five senses, and it's the fifth element of spirit. So I thought it was interesting with the first ritual, you know, we're being initiated and we're bringing soil from the earth, you know, it has to be returned to the earth to start this ritual. And then in ritual five, when we do the same thing, we don't use any props, you know, we're not gathering soil or anything. What we're doing is we're visualizing, imagining our lives in the future. So we're kind of using that air element, you know, and which is more so aligned with spirit, in order to kind of continue the manifestation of our lives and of the direction that our life is going due to this ritual. So I could keep going a little bit about this, but I want to let somebody else talk too. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Very interesting point, but I want to definitely pick Jasmine's brain really quickly. But I think some of the things that you said, you really nailed it, Pixie. The first thing that comes to mind is the alchemical process as it relates to you know, some of the things you were saying, which is spirit. You know, all of these things are pertinent for the alchemist when they are creating elixirs, or even the mythological meaning of what an alchemist is, which is the pursuit of turning base metals into gold. And ironically, this ritual does share a lot of the components of ritual one, and it just so happens to be an alchemical rite as it's in itself. So I think you really know this. That's pretty interesting. But Pixie, I'm sorry, Jasmine, we I know that we've discussed in ritual one that this, you know, the foundation or the core of this ritual actually comes from the black pullet.
Yes.
What kind of research or essentially what kind of elements is it bringing from, like, why do you think the Gallery of Magick chose the black pullet, and why do you think this is a core part of the process in the journey?
Well, I mean, this is this how you call it, obscure book, right? And this obscure more, and well, like you mentioned already, it's, you know, in the first ritual you have this initiation to the spirits that are supposed to bring you gold and wealth and all these things. And then again, I agree with you both, because you said the magician is at this different point of the journey, right? So now the talisman, comparing it to the first one, is slightly different. And this is the eighth talisman in the black pullet. And I mean, the inside part, and then the outside, I guess, is the same as what you always have to have on this wand, you know, to do this operation. And then yeah, this ritual is much more condensed than the first one, because like Pixies mentioned, or Mars, one of you mentioned it, like there's no earth of the picking up of the piece of the earth and all of that. It's not there, but they're going straight to I am grateful for all that I have, blah, blah, blah. And then straight to the part of the ritual where you say, these words in this weird language, right? I don't know if it's Latin, by the way. I don't think so.
It is. It is actually Latin, and I have the translation.
Oh no, not the alchemical, right? I mean before those weird words, but or their spirit name, I guess. And power. But anyways, the first part is identical to the first ritual, and the reason why is I had this marked in the book, all these words, Sina, Misas, Tinaim, Orcel, Misantos. I mean, let me just go to the Black Pullet and refresh your memory what this is. It's this old man is talking, or this Arab man is talking to the other man. I'm sorry, I have not reread the whole Black Pullet again, but what I marked in the book is the old man noticed that the spirit's light dazzled my eyes. When you have been initiated into the mysteries of wisdom, you will be able to contemplate this fire without danger and even to stand the rays of the sun. Let us begin the initiation. Let us stand. And then the words again, Sina, Misas, Tanaim, or Sel, Misantos. So that's the initiation. And then be without dread or fear, the old man said, my father, am I not with you? Your answer pleases me. It proclaims confidence. You will now test the effects of it. He then said, Tomatos, benacer, elianter. So, same thing as the first ritual. Is the initiation right? And very important, he stopped in front of every spirit and said to me, repeat with me. Litao Isar Osanas. And those are the words that we are supposed to say 7 times in the first ritual and in the 5th ritual. I obeyed, and each spirit bowed, saying, Nanter. There were 33. So I guess it gives you power to control these spirits. That's why you say these words 7 times.
You know what's most interesting too? That, as we continue to discuss more and more about this and its root in alchemy, we also observe that, okay, so what is alchemy, right? Alchemy was rooted in a complex spiritual worldview, where everything around us contains some sort of universal spirit. And so metals were believed to not only be alive, but also to grow inside the earth, right? And this is where the whole thing of alchemists turning base metals or turning lead into gold became so popular. But to the alchemists, right? Metals were not really so much of a unique substance that were part of, the periodic table. It was more so a refinement of their way to spiritual perfection. And it just seems that the way we're using this alchemical process in both ritual 1 and ritual 5 is, it seems like we're actually doing kind of the reverse, where we're acknowledging the fact that, yes, that these metals, in this case, gold, that already exists, it looks like we're somehow commanding it. This is entirely my theory, right? I'm not saying this is the way it is, but I'm just saying, like, if an alchemist believes that gold has a spiritual life, or contains, I should say, some sort of spiritual, universal spirit, call it an elemental, call it whatever it is, then the rite gives you the ability, or the what's the word I'm having, the ability basically to command those spirits so that they come to you. The physicality of the object, the metal itself, actually contains some sort of spiritually mature presence, right? And so what I think is happening here with the first and the 5th ritual is actually kind of building off that same core theory, but it's saying that, you don't need to be an alchemist to command these forces. You can command these forces and attract them in a way that these spirits come to you. Just like any spirit that you call out, you can do the same with money. But of course, with the alchemical process, there are things that you have to prepare, right? You have to be duly prepared. You have to, much like, I'm not exactly sure how much we're aware of alchemy and the process thereof of it, but it's a very intricate process, one that involves a lot of cleanliness, sterilization. When you're making things like advanced elixirs, or practicing the rite itself, the whole goal and the whole intent of the occultist is to bring about the changes needed with the alchemical process. And like I said, I know I keep repeating myself here, but I think what this, book 1 and book 5, or ritual 1 and ritual 5, are doing are kind of the opposite there. Time out, guys, real quick. I think I messed that one up. So you may have to chop that one up a little bit there, because I kind of lost my thought when I was transitioning back here. But if you guys want to take over it, go ahead, go now.
Okay. So yes, then thinking of the ritual structure, then again, we do the initiation same as ritual 1, just a bit more condensed without all the extra stuff. And then we go into the alchemical rite, where we, call this gold, or, or the power to transition things like an alchemist. And then after, you are told to imagine the sun, imagine it as a vast ball of heat and flame, see it shrinking, it becomes a star, moves into your heart and resides there, blah, blah, blah. And imagine having this power, and then gaze at the talisman in front of you. Imagine it aflame, the black lines become bright with the heat of fire. Let the fire die down to a bronze-colored light. Call clearly with authority. So now, like I mentioned, it's the 8th, it's talisman number 8 in the black pullet. And those characters that you see on the talisman are on the inside on the gallery's talisman. And then what is on the ring? Well, you'll recognize it if you're looking at it. And yeah, then you call clearly and with authority. Sorami svaitos iliastot. And as you say the words, know that you are summoning spirits who will make competition fall away and propel all your projects forward. So first of all, the gallery, in their other books, they always say, oh, imagine the sun, it moves into your heart. It's something they incorporate in a lot of their books. And I think it's because they're a little lazy to do the middle pillar. So they take kind of that out of it. Whoever of you who is familiar with the middle pillar knows what I'm talking about, but because the gallery doesn't involve a lot of preparatory work, as more traditional ceremonial magic, so they do this, imagine the sun and the light. And yeah, I have to read from the black pullet, so you see where I'm taking this from. So it's talisman number 8, and it will serve to activate as many spirits as you wish to undertake or to stop operations which would be contrary to you. The magic words are Sorami Saitox Eliastot. So again, they are saying, in other words, stuff that would be not to our benefit that other people are doing. In other words, competition. This is how the gallery interpreted it, and that's why they chose this talisman, to make the competition fall away and make you come out on top, basically. And those
Yeah.
are either the spirit names or words of power to call these spirits. The Black Pullet doesn't explain that, but that's what this is. Those three words.
I'd agree with that interpretation. Go ahead, Pix.
I just wanted to say really quick, it came to mind that as far as like an example of the competition falling away while I'm on this booth working, is for example, I mentioned earlier that I teach piano lessons through a studio right now, and just had the realization that in the last week or so, maybe a couple weeks, one of my students, I teach on a certain day of the week, and he wanted to move to Saturdays. So there's another teacher on Saturdays. I think there's maybe 2 piano teachers at the store. I honestly don't know, but he moved to another teacher, just that could cater to his time. But then recently, just like within this last week, came back to me because I guess I don't exactly know. I don't think maybe he likes the other teacher or something, so that just kind of is an example just right there of changes in competition, and how maybe this other teacher, I don't necessarily feel at competition with her. I don't even know who she is, but it's funny that like one of my students had left and then came back just in the meantime because of whatever unsatisfaction he was experiencing with this other person doing the same thing, so just one example that I've experienced firsthand while doing this. So therefore I get to keep that student and keep the money from that student and yeah, so.
Wow.
No, that's very cool.
Yeah, kind of interesting because this stuff works, it works, I feel like, in the past, present, and future at the same time.
Yes.
Definitely, and the Gallery of Magic overemphasizes that. They describe that how these spirits that the time isn't linear for these spirits, and that they're able to traverse it in such a way that can instigate change from every angle. And I can't tell you enough how many times I've thought back to even my childhood when it came to, especially during parts of like Ritual 2 and Ritual 4. I thought about how like a lot of the things that were actually happening during my childhood, which I thought were just coincidental at the time, until I realized what the power of these spirits were doing. That I realized that hey, they were actually going back and doing some of these things, and some of these things that I'm talking about were pivotal to my success today.
Wow.
And no, it's a thing, and I think about this ritual too, and it's an amazing ritual. Competition's always going to be there, and I think that when you start to go into later rituals like wealth and honor, and stuff like that, you'll really start to see the benefits of how this ritual kind of works out for you. Because as far as competition itself, not to say that if I started a new project today, that I wouldn't, that I'm not saying that it's going to be a flawless victory as far as a startup or anything, but I've noticed that there is a very distinct way at which things kind of work out in your favor in the end. And you don't need to start a big project. You can really just put your mind to just about anything, and this ritual retroactively works. It works in such a way that it eliminates any blockages that would be brought to you by any sort of external competing forces. I have numerous things that I could talk about, all of which, ironically, I can't remember at the moment. But things that, I've said to myself, wow, I really made this look easy. And, it's because I've got the backing of the universe, and a strong pact that I'm going to let go of all of my fears, attributed to this working. So, we've talked about how this thing is an alchemical right. And we talked about how, the obvious meaning being it's going to eliminate your competition.
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously very important to have a skill that you need if you want to be successful. I can't help because I'm so humble, right? I can't help but think sometimes, in a way, I feel kind of bad for others who, you know, in a way, like, you have an upper hand, and it's a good thing to have. And you also have, with great power. Here's what I'm trying to say: with great power comes great responsibility, and you need to know
Yes.
that with this kind of power, be humble.
Yeah.
Don't play around with this. This is serious business. This is high magic, and
Yes.
Yeah.
you know, make sure that you're making the right decisions.
Yes. I do just want to jump in on what you have to say really quick, and stress that this is, yes, like you said, this is high magic, you know, and it can be miraculous. I mean, for a lot of people. And that's probably why it doesn't fall into everyone's hands, you know. And I've had the same thoughts, you know, also because I'm so humble all the time. But just in the fact that, you know, I mean, yes, we put this information out there on the internet, you know, these podcasts, and like I have my own sort of videos, but sometimes, you know, I don't, because I know they won't have any interest probably, but I want to be able to share this maybe with some friends, you know, that I know are struggling, but it's not the answer for everybody, you know. And I want to stress that with as much as this magic for the magician and for us and, you know, the users, that we have to take action too. We have to physically get the ball rolling in this reality, you know, and we do have the backing of the universe, but if we just, you know, let go of our fear and stay stagnant, then we're not accomplishing anything. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll work its way into your life somehow. But for me, I have to take action. You know, I have to have my intentions and be ready with the idea that I need to be responsible for making them come to life, with it, you know, with or without the magic. It's almost like you should do this without thinking that the magic is going to help, and then, you know, the magic will help, and then it, you know, kind of all just will flow into being more naturally. But you know, as much as this can do for us, we also have to do it for ourselves. And that just also comes with showing up, you know, every day or every other day and performing the ritual. You know, that's an action in the wealth creation by itself too, regardless of what we're doing outside of the magic. But you know, I just don't want anyone to lose focus or lose or keep gain the idea that the magic's going to do it all, you know, and that we just, all we have to do is say some words and look at some pictures, you know. There are steps that need to be taken too, and maybe they're easier steps because of the magic, but there's steps nonetheless.
That's a really good point.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Very
And
important.
And especially I feel like in this ritual, with it being the changes of of competition, you know, and kind of getting towards the later end of this book entirely. So
you know, I found the ritual to be pretty low key. I didn't
Mhm.
really sense much out of it. What do you guys think? I mean, I'm also, I also don't feel a lot of things when I'm doing magic, but I know Pixie, I know you're doing it again for the second time. And where are you at right now as we speak? Where how many days in are you in it?
today was my 11th day, so got 6 more days after this. So you're supposed to do it for 17 total. And you know, I haven't noticed, like, sometimes when I've done some of the other rituals, and maybe it just depends on my magical state of mind that day, you know, too. But I haven't really. It is pretty low key, you know. I haven't noticed any super strong crazy connections, you know, or any sort of like crazy visions when I'm doing the year in the future visualization, you know. I mean, it's just kind of there, you know. And sometimes I don't feel much of anything, and I have to just trust that it worked. And you know, maybe even sometimes I get a little distracted, and I think that's something that can be talked about too, is like, you're not always going to be totally focused. Like, yeah, you should be, you know, that's the ideal. But you know, we're human, and sometimes my cat meows in the middle of a ritual, and I'm like, what do you know, or she's scratching at something, and I have to like get her to cut it out. But regardless, I'm still in the ritual and I come right back to it. But the Gallery of Magic does a really great job of stressing this. And for me, as a beginner magician, when I came into this stuff a few years ago, it really helped me with when they said stuff like, you may not feel anything. Like you may not sense a shift in the atmosphere. You may not feel, the presence of the angels or the spirits, and that's okay. Just know that the magic has worked, and sometimes I do feel this connection or whatever, and sometimes I don't, but regardless of what I feel during the ritual, I need to maintain the same belief and the same trust in the universe and in the magic that it's working, or that I did what I needed to do. And I did my best, and then that's all I could do, So this one, I don't notice any, I'm not like totally like awestruck with a sensation or a feeling. It's just kind of a casual ritual. And I, just need to not second guess myself or second guess the ritual because I don't necessarily feel something every time.
There was something you just said that made me think about another aspect of the fire. The analogy it uses, the venerating fire, which by the way is described also in the Latin too, that we haven't discussed yet, but we'll leave the Latin translation in the description here of this podcast episode, so that you can read it for yourself. Mm-hmm. But how do you create how do you become engaged in an atmosphere where you have competition? And how do you induce an environment where you're susceptible to change? And I think we've all said it here time and time again, that it's all about taking action, that you can't just sit around, you can't just wait for the results to kind of come about. It really does, fire is about action. And the elements are pretty clear about what this ritual is suggesting. If you're not willing to go out there and put your neck out on the line, at least to try to instigate the changes that you need, yeah, whatever, you're going to get some competition. People are always going to have something to say about you, especially when you're glowing. Mm-hmm. But just focus on what you're doing, and focus, continue to focus on taking action. What does taking action mean? That can mean anything. Where are you at right now in life where you think that you need a change? And forget the competition part, but just focus on where you are at life. This could mean you're, maybe just graduating from college, or you're in a job that you've been doing for years and you're looking for changes. And it's all going to come down to, what are you willing to do? How are you going to meet the universe in the middle to accomplish what you've set out for yourself? And so the book, the beginning of the chapter, it really tells the occultist, hey, right now might be a great time to start a project. I think it's a very subtle subliminal. Go out there, go take risks. It's never too late. There's never gonna be a time where it's too late.
Yes.
Always take action.
Yeah. The thing is, the time will pass anyways, because many people they can never leave the hamster wheel life, and they're unhappy, and they say, no, I don't want to start, it's too much work, it's gonna take forever, but the time is gonna pass anyways. so yeah. You might as well take action, especially if you decided to do magic for 5 months straight. Like, hey, take some action in the 3D world, please. Don't miss the opportunity.
Right, because this magic, when we do this magic, it's not working in the 3-dimensional, in the 3rd dimension. It's working I don't know, the fifth or above the third, and we need to do our part as beings, in the third dimension, to make those manifestations happen, to take what we're being given intuitively or magically and go from there,
Absolutely.
and let's see. Never mind. Well, okay. Sorry. I was reading in the front of the
All good
book.
points.
Yeah, just one more thing on this point, I guess. It said that where does it say? It just says, if you like being while doing any of this magic, like being directed to particular industries is far too restrictive, and just in this, like we need to keep an open mind and into what direction it's going. And both times I've started wealth magic, the first time I was really at a point of like, I have no idea where to go from here or what I even want to do. So this seems like, what do I have to lose? And this time, it was almost like I'd reaped some of the benefits of the first wealth magic and was at a point of almost stagnancy in the new foundation, and realizing that, like, okay, this is what I've manifested, and yes, I'm so grateful for this, but this is not all I want to manifest, and I need a little help with the direction of what it actually truly is that I want to do from here. And I have to be open-minded. I mean, this, like I was mentioning to you guys earlier, this job opportunity that I have coming to me in January is nothing like anything I've ever done before. I never would have ever thought that I'd have an interest, and I honestly don't even know if I will have an interest yet. It might not work out. It might be just a something for now, but then again it might. And we just need to not shoot anything down just because it's being offered to us, and we don't think it's for us. Like when I first got this job offer, I was like, I honestly did turn it down because I was like, I don't know. But it was also when I had restarted Wealth Magic for the second time, and I saw, regardless of me turning it down, which maybe it was just stupid of me to turn it down, which I didn't because I reconsidered. But at first, I was going to, and even though I did recognize it as an outcome of Wealth Magic, but maybe it was my ego that was like, no, that's not really what you want or for you. But realistically, it could be, or it could be a path that leads me to what is meant for me, like even more so. So we just can't be limited in our thinking, and like if we try to direct it, I think, towards a specific industry, then we might be met with disappointment in the end.
That's a very valid point.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know.
So I think we have this. Let's do a quick recap. I think what we have essentially confirmed is that this ritual is basically sort of at its core, it's very similar to Ritual 1. Whereas, I think we can all agree this is an alchemical rite of sorts, focused on instigating changes within the occultist, and we're noticing that there's a very distinct way that it's being done, by the way. Whereas the alchemists, instead of preparing themselves in a way to or rather, excuse me, that the alchemist is looking at base metals as having their own universal spirit. And it seems like the way we're sort of using this is a bit differently. We're using it as, hey, these spirits, we're acknowledging that gold and metals and essentially currency has a spirit. And by acknowledging this, we're commanding to the universe, and especially to these spirits, to do our bidding and our will, as most things with magic. But I think what we've also discussed is that in several different ways, this ritual at its core is also designed to more specifically take out your competition, by giving you sort of the internal changes needed for you to start taking action and putting out there to the universe what you want to accomplish. And in return, the universe will ensure that any blockages, any sort of anything that relates to oppressing you or taking you off what you need to do to achieve your goal, it seems like these spirits are sort of that's just a non-issue in general. So do you guys think that we've covered in its entirety? Do you think we've covered ritual 5?
I do, definitely. Yeah.
I do too. And just one more thing quick that goes off what you said, in the ritual, they say that when you do your visualization, to keep it simple, and says, do not spend a whole lot of time visualizing in detail, just simply pretend it is 1 year later and everything is going according to plan. So that also just kind of states that, don't see yourself in specifics, like specifically I'm wealthy because this is what I accomplished, but just feel the wealth in general and the success and the satisfaction in general, wherever it stands, rather than, specifically in this job or this life or this whatever, So the book is very good at stating that too, which is helpful.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think we covered it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you very much. And to the viewers as well, the listeners listening in, thank you very much for giving us the time of day to talk about our experiences as it relates to this book. We'll leave a link to the book in the description as well as the Latin translation in English. But farewell for now. Thank you very much for listening and for tuning in. Have a great rest of 2021 and cheers to 2022.
Yes.
Cheers. Yeah. 222 coming.
Angel number right there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.